Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today, we continue on with our general purpose combo series. So this is something for the guys that are wanting to do a lot. All right. And I think this combo specifically, when I saw this rod, and remember, I already have reels, right? So when I saw this rod, I was like, whoa, I need that in my life. And there's a story associated with this rod in particular that I'm pretty sure Kelvin, he would know. It's been years since I had this. I haven't been, okay, there are rods that can do this job from other brands. Okay. And I have, like, take for example, from Major Craft, I have one that's my Sky Road, actually. The Sky Road is not a shore jigging specific rod. Okay. It's actually for flounder, and for flounder fishing, you actually do a lot of things. It's specifically made for flounder, but for flounder, you could use soft plastics, plugs, vibes, and minnows such as these, also sinking minnows. Basically, it's an all-arounder. Okay. The thing that I liked about the Sky Road is that it had like a longer butt than usual. Now, this is a sea bass rod, and it is a jack of all trades, specializing in long casts. Now you can fish this off the surf, the rocks, estuaries, wherever. It excels in medium to long range casts. Paired with some of the lures that I'm going to be showing you, it is hard to beat. And this is one of the reasons why I have this particular rod. Now remember, I'm not telling you to buy this rod. I'm not telling you to buy this reel, okay? Or the reels that I'm going to show you, because I use 3 reels for this rod. It's that versatile. Now, what I am trying to show here, and what I'm been really emphasizing, is not the rod, it's not the reel. It is the fact that you could have a combo if you just follow the specs. All right, so it might be, specs might be like a little bit off or whatnot, but if you follow the specs, then that's that. All right, now here's the thing. This might not be specific for shore jigging. Okay, so it's not like an LSJ rod, but it could do the job. It might not be a proper, or a shore jigging rod is a plugging rod. All right, so it can work stick baits really well. Okay, this is from Northcraft, by the way. Right, and it can work this, and it could be doing really well. Okay, this rod can do it. It can do this, vibes, jigs, bucktail, soft plastic, you name it, it can do it. And this is literally why I have it. And when I saw it, I was like, oh gosh, I need that in my life. All right, so what we are talking about is the Yamaga Early Plus 95 ml, and this is a rod that has a range 7 and 28 grams, but it could cast up to 30, 35, no problem. I think Kelvin said that you can, if I'm not mistaken, he actually casted this with a 40 gram, and I believe you could do it too. That's almost double, but I won't go over 30 on this just because I don't want to break it. But this rod is very light, so as far as sensitivity is concerned, it's tops. Now remember that this rod was discontinued in 2020. Okay, so as far as things are concerned, you might be able to buy this as a an old stock or second hand, but this rod has really good componentry next level, what do you call this, engineering and craftsmanship. Yamaga, what can even if this is one of their cheaper rods, it's really good. Now it has a short handle, which is just fine. It's like my hand up to my elbow right there, so I could do that. I could also work lures in my armpit, okay, which is still really good for shore jigging. All right, and I've used this also for shore jigging with devastating results. Where it shines, obviously, is in its generalist approach. Okay, so this rod is very interesting because it balances out with lighter 4,000 reels. Okay, so this is a TPXG MGL, so kind of light, and it balances out really well with this. All right, but for my fishing, and most of the time I use it with either a 3,000 size TPXD, okay, which does a really good job. Okay, so really light overall combo, but for soft plastics, okay, and this is excellent. Okay, this combo, and my god, if you have this, it's so light, and it's a light rod, so it balances out with light reels. But with this, okay, with that combo right there, like holy shit, it takes it to the next level. So again, a Vanquish 3,000 or 4,000 would balance out really well with this rod. I'm sure there's a modern version of this, or when they discontinue something, obviously they're going to replace it with something. So something like this. Now, the line, it's 0.8 to 1.5, but I have used 0.6 on this for extra distance, A, and B, I've also used only up to 1.2, because when it comes to something like this, my concern is really always distance. All right, now with that, this sort of thing, okay, when distance is something that I am really concerned about. So like, take for example, if I am in an area where I know the fish are holding far, this is something that goes out of storage. And one of the rods that I'm probably gonna take, if not, it would be the first one in my hands when I'm in a particular area. Obviously, when it comes to jigs and all that, there are better rods. However, if you want to be mobile and light on your feet and you only take one rod, this is the rod to beat. Okay, now just to give you the range of this whole thing and why it's so good. Okay, so you have one of the most important weights for jigs is 20 for us. Okay, so 20 gives you distance, like ridiculous distance. 20, 15, 10. Okay, so 10, 15, 20. 10, 15, 20. There we go. So these three weights, very, very important. Now, when I need to cast even farther, then I can go all the way up to about a 25, something like this. And as you can see, it's a wide-bodied, what do you call this? It's a tamban jig from Ocean Attitude. All right, so I can either use it as a casting jig with a treble at the back, or I could put assist hooks, use it for well, jigging, and really just what do you call this? Make it flutter and all that. usually what happens is that there are birds feeding like quite far and stuff. It's there are of course other jigs that you could use. But see, here's the thing. I think one of the most important for this is working lures such as these. Okay, this is the Soran Heavy Minnow. I think this is 27 grams. And this on that has caught me a lot of kingfish and more barracuda than I can care. Now, lures such as this stick bait is also killer. This is, I believe, like a 21 or 26 gram. Okay, so it's perfect for that. Another lure that I believe is kind of what do you call this? Underrated and underutilized, especially for this place, is this one right here. And this is the Rapala Max Wrap. Okay, this is the 15 cm 15 mm version. This is 23 grams. But boy, this can fly. I'm telling you. And I've even used this to troll off of my kayak, and it catches. So it's a very good simulator for ballyhoo around these parts. Comes in different colors, of course, and a little bit on the expensive side. Okay, but I'm telling you, this is so effective. It's crazy. Okay. Very, very effective lure. It has like a weight transfer system, and it's I think if you've used this, like, holy shit, it's yeah, it works really, really well with that rod. Another lure that works well with that is this press bait right here from Duo. Okay, it works like a jig. It's kind of like a cross between a jig and a minnow. And what it is, it's especially this color. I like this color because, it simulates like a lot of things. You cast out. And by the way, I'm not telling you to buy these lures again, okay? But these are the lures that work really well with that rod. Metal Vibes, probably something that a lot of people miss out on. And this is a 25 gram Northcraft Vibe. And a lot of people kind of don't really use this, but I'm not gonna dwell too much on that. If you haven't discovered it yet, then that's something that you should actually be looking at. Now, obviously, in the smaller end, you could still cast stuff like this, okay? And it also goes a really good distance. Continuing on from the 7.5-foot bogey, that's for medium ranges. Something like this, it's still gonna go a good distance. However, obviously, with the longer reach, this thing would be able to cast it farther. One of the lures that I have been using in the past few years is a chatterbait. Now, all I do is actually make my own, and I do it with synthetic materials more than with soft plastics or whatnot. And they have been doing really well, especially for fish like snapper and stuff. Even in deep water, in deeper water, it works. Okay, now something as small as this would actually go quite far, especially when I'm using like 0.6. For smaller presentations, 7 grams, just something just like this. Going the distance, really, really good. 10-gram jig para, one of the main staples for this particular rod. All right, now obviously spoons such as these Castmasters, and there are also crocodiles that I use with these, and they're just, everything that we've discussed in the previous video with the 7.5-foot all-purpose rod, you can do with this particular rod, okay? But at distance, Okay. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're casting out, a lot is diminished. Okay. So this is why after several, I've changed a lot of rods, and, given up on a few. And this is why I always say sensitivity is like a big thing for me, and a lot of people probably don't really realize what I say when it comes to sensitivity. So for me, okay, I need to feel the lure, not just the obvious vibration of the lure. Okay, so when the lure moves, it gives off a vibration. So when you're reeling, it could go zoop, 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 like that. But there's subtle indications as well. Like take for example, when you're reeling, I want to be able to feel if it's hitting rock, if it's hitting sand, if it's actually catching on grass, stuff like that. Okay, because majority of the time I actually don't use leaders, and when the fish taps it, I set the hook, and most of the time I catch barracuda with the trebles in the mouth. Okay, and with that, there's hardly any use for the leader. If you allow it to just attack the lure and you don't feel it, what happens is that the barracuda will nip at it and then go sideways and then bang, just like that. And that's when the leader gets hit, or sometimes it just misses. So like especially with toothy fish and in places where they're pressured, okay, using wire is a disadvantage because they can see it. Now if I'm using something like a Soran heavy minnow, and then I'm working it and I'm actually jerking it a little bit, just to give it a little bit of a darting action. Usually when you stop, okay, and then the lure sinks down, that's when they bite. And sometimes they actually bite and just stay there. And you'll only find when you're jerking, you have the fish. But with something that's sensitive like this particular combo right here, I can, even when the line is slack and it's hard to describe, but you feel a tick that the fish actually has it. So instead of actually jerking, without the intention of setting the hook, I can feel that tick, reel up as tight as possible, and then bang, set the hook. And that happens in a split second, so instead of actually just mindlessly working it, I'm very proactive at setting the hook when it's needed. And this rod gives me that. And it's hard to explain, especially when you're casting out quite far. And like in the case of this, you fish it with a countdown method. So you cast it out, let it drop, and it flutters on the way down. When the fish grabs it, even when it's free falling, in this rod, because it's so sensitive, or this combo, you feel it. Reel, bang, set the hook there. Now, if your rod is on the heavy side, you might not feel this. Okay, so that's why something like this is important. Now, another rod brand to look at when it comes to rods that are similar to this is Apia, Angler's Utopia. Okay, so actually any good brand that has like a rod line for sea bass, and this is what it is. Okay, so if you're looking for something, it might not be something from Yamaga, different people, different budgets and all of that, but rod brands such as even Major Craft would have, like the Major Craft with their 5G technology, I believe will give you like really light rods, and I'm pretty sure they have sea bass rods, although I have not actually explored it. But for something, again, a generalist approach, very, very hard to beat. Okay, now line. I am a fan of underlining, okay, because most of the time the braids will actually over test anyway. So what I'm after most of the time would be the diameter and not the strength. Okay, because like a point 0.6 is actually quite strong. Like 0.8 is like what, 20? So 0.6 would be around 15 or about 17. So they're not too far off, but the jump on the diameter is actually quite big. So a 0.6 will give you a bit more distance. Now, a 1.2 is thinner than 0.8, 1.5. So this is 0.8, okay? And this is thinner, you know. But before I used this for something else, I actually spooled this with like 0.4 or 0.6, and then I decided to actually drop the line weight on that reel. I think down the line what I need is a spool, but if I'm actively going to be using this combo with this reel again, probably I'd get a spool and spool it up with 0.6 just so it's the... Now, even with this, let's say it's a 0.4, you could still use it with this. I'm probably going to be staying with the, let's say, maximum of about 25 grams, max for that. But it would give me really good distance for 15s, 10s, lower even, 7s, you know. I wouldn't really cast the 25 with it because I've had accidents before, but something like a 20 would probably, yeah, max out, because these guys would be, you know, the might be a bit too big for that, but it will give it extra distance and depth. Definitely something like this would be good. Now, for 1.2, this is why I switch reels, you know, because I don't have the spools for these types of reels, or for these reels. Now, the reels have their lines, and I just switched the reels. Okay, so this is, I know this is 0.8 for sure. Now, even with this, it already gives me like all of the lures. I could use this, give it really good distance, and, you know, work that. As far as targets are concerned, most of the time, the targets for these particular lures is actually kingfish. So one of the things why I stopped using this is because I'm not actively fishing for kingfish, and this was something that was used for that particular fish. I've caught snappers, I've caught brim on this, but then it's still a bit on the heavy side for stuff like that, you know, so I have better combos for those. But for, let's say, barracuda, kingfish, queens, at distance, those three, this is, and jacks, you know, so golden trevally and orange spots, you know, this just works really well. Now, another thing that I like using this for is flounder, but that's mostly a winter fish for us. So probably when the weather cools down, and we'll see if we can go on a flounder hunt over in Frigera with this thing. Although I do have a rod that's optimized for that particular type of fishing, and, you know, that thing's hard to beat. Actually caught 50 flounder on that, 52 within like a 2-hour session. So, you know, that rod is the Sky Road is optimized for flounder fishing, and that's what I bought it for. But yeah, a very, very good all-around distance rod, okay, and something that I relied on a lot for a long time, especially when it was fishing for kingfish. And I dare say, very difficult to beat. The specs are right on for what I really need, which is distance, and also the fact that it's still very sensitive in long distances, and that's very difficult to do. Now, obviously, when the fish they're striking and they're slamming the baits and all that, you know, you could use any rod. But when the times are actually kind of difficult and you need that extra bit of sensitivity so that when the fish are short striking, you'll catch them, this is a very good rod. Again, the Yamaga Early Plus 95 ml. Any rod with the same specs or close to it would be able to do what it can do, just as long as you actually go for a very reputed brand. I'm pretty sure Major Craft has a version of this. Palms would have a version of this. Sea bass rods, guys. Okay, so long sea bass rods. You're looking at a 95 ml here, medium light, but you could also look for something probably longer at about 10 feet if you need that distance. In fact, for other brands, I would actually say look for something that's a bit longer if you're really concerned about distance. Apia is another one. Of course, Zenak. What else? I'm pretty sure Tenryu would have something like this. Or maybe, I'm not familiar. Ripple Fisher, definitely. So again, sea bass rods. Shimano would have it. Xsense. The Xsense line will have something like this. Alrighty. Lures, floating stick baits, sinking stick baits, really good for this. Jig minnows, such as this press bait right here. Excellent for heavy minnows, such as the Soran heavy minnow. Jigs, bucktails, chatterbaits, such as this. I wouldn't use a crankbait on this, actually. Jig para micro, 10, 15, 20 grams. Okay, something like the Ocean Attitude Tamban is really good with this rod. Proven, tried, tested. Even the bullets too. The Ocean Attitude bullets. 10-gram jigs of any sort. Really, really good. Vibes. And of course, soft plastics. I'm not going to show you soft plastics. There are a ton of them. The ever ubiquitous spoon works really well with this. Really long distance. And this is one of those lures that actually require that bit of sensitivity, especially when you're just putting a treble here. Very, very important, because as soon as you feel the spoon not moving the way it should be, set that hook. Very, very important. Not all rods are sensitive when they're far. Trust me on this. You can actually test it out on your own and see for yourself. But lighter rods will give you the most sensitivity. Alrighty. So yeah, I guess that's it for this video. I hope you learned something. And if you have, give it a thumbs up. Share this video to a friend, family, fishing buddy that might need it. Very, very important for the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you want to help this channel move forward, click on that membership button. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all our members. Thank you very much for supporting the channel and helping it move forward. That's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed. All right, so I forgot to mention, the only thing that's heavy with the rods like these is the price tag. So before you commit, do your research, see exactly if you have the need for it before you pull the trigger. Now, if you're in the States, these rods, especially the shipping, is not going to be palatable. Okay? But I can assure you, if you've used something like this, it's going to change how you see things. Because it is nothing like any American rod. It is nothing like any American rod. I can assure you. So, if you're not familiar with Yamaga, check them out. It's crazy good.